Hey friends, and welcome back to this episode. Have you ever experienced thoughts and triggers that took you away from your spouse and disconnected you in your relationship, and you felt angry and upset all over again? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, that's what our topic is today. And I know I have experienced that. I know you've experienced that. Triggers don't have to always be in a relationship or a betrayal. PTSD experiences triggers also. So I believe that triggers really take us back to our past and make us feel like we're reliving something right then and there.
I think it becomes more and more intense depending on the level of betrayal, depending on the level of trust that was broken in the relationship. Because that's what we're talking about in this is
Right.
There's a betrayal that happened, and then there's triggers on the other side of that. And it really depends on to the level of you were betrayed to the level of the triggers.
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys have been sending in a lot of questions to us, and we really appreciate it.
And we want to answer your questions.
We do. And so what Adelle has done is created a centralized place on our website, and we're going to put a link right here where you could go and submit a question to us to be answered.
Yeah, and if we choose your question to be answered on our channel, we're going to send you a free gift just for engaging with us on our channel.
Yeah, thank you.
You have the ability to do it anonymously on there and not include your name. And so we want to encourage you, if you have those questions that you're just a little bit nervous to ask them. We would love to openly share about how we have worked through similar circumstances. We're not therapists. However, we have a lot of experience just from what the Lord has walked us through in our own life.
Yeah, and we're going to come about the answering these from using the Bible, personal experience, and how we have coached people. That's how we answer these questions.
Right.
So speaking of questions, yesterday we had an anonymous question come in, and we're excited to be able to answer that today. It's all about the triggers and thoughts that I was just mentioning.
Yeah. So this couple went through infidelity 4 years ago, and the husband is saying that he has forgiven her and he continues to forgive her. However, there are certain various elements that come up that he still experiences a trigger. So the question is, I'm still triggered by various elements, and when that happens, I'm tempted to go cold. Have you found helpful ways to deal with these triggers and take those thoughts captive? Yes, thank you for sending in this question. I imagine there's others out there that are also wondering the exact same thing.
Yeah, are you? Are you experiencing, I'm having these triggers and I don't like them. I'm having these incessant thoughts that keep turning up the volume over and over, and I don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing that us as humans go through. It's very common.
Yeah, and going through betrayal is a traumatic experience. And so what happens in the brain is it gets lodged in there as a trauma. And so the brain wants to revert back to the past. And I believe spiritual warfare is all over triggers. I think the enemy really uses triggers to keep us disconnected, to keep us from moving forward. And it is a challenge. Working through triggers is so hard. And I am sorry if that is you, and I'm sorry that you are going through that. And there's hope on the other side. You can come out better and stronger through this. We were talking before we jumped on here to film about the other day, I actually experienced a trigger, which just gave me access to something recently that happened to give me the ability to see how do I work through that. Because I would say that most of the triggers don't actually trigger me. And that's what I'm going to share with you today is how I work through those and how I come against it in prayer, as well as how I share it with Travis. So the other day I was at a school and I just saw a gentleman standing in the hallway, and what he was wearing really triggered me, which is just really, it sounds so ridiculous to say that. And that triggers are that way. You never know when they're going to come or how they're going to come. They come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. And so it showed up for me, and I immediately had thoughts about this man, and I felt like, you can't be trusted. You probably do the same thing my husband did. Are you even married? I'm having these thoughts, and they're rapidly happening. Okay. So what I experienced was a visual trigger, and I imagine there's more of you out there. This is the first time I'm talking about this, so bear with me as I share. But it was a visual trigger that immediately took me to Travis being unfaithful. And it was vivid for me, and it made my heart start to pitter patter. And here I am in a school with my daughter, having a great time with her, and all this is going on. And he asked me, how long did that how long was that experience? And it
Yeah.
was about 2 minutes from start to finish. So it was fast. And the thoughts about the man, I didn't really catch on to. I really wasn't aware that that was happening until I had the visual trigger and I felt my heart start to race. And I know that I have a choice at that point. I can continue down that path and think about what he did and how he was unfaithful, which would lead me to feeling like, you're going to do it again. I can't trust you because of this. What else don't I know that you haven't told me about? So it's going to absolutely bring up all of the distrust that we've worked so hard to rebuild. You've worked hard to rebuild that. And a trigger can instantly tear it all down in a moment.
I think it's amazing how your mind does not know the difference between thought and reality.
Right. Did you know that? Your brain does not know whether you are in the reality of betrayal or if it is thoughts of betrayal. That visual image that I had, the way that I felt in that moment was that's exactly what he was doing right then.
It was real to you.
It was very real.
Yeah.
And so what I do next...
But it does not mean it's really happening. It is
Exactly.
real to you. It is a feeling. Her feelings are real. Just like your feelings are real.
And this is normal.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for saying that. It is normal. That's important for you to know. You're normal.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're still experiencing triggers at 4 years, yeah, totally. That is very challenging. We're almost at 5 years and I still experience them. It's the next piece that's just really important because I have a choice. And the Lord gave me this visual one time, and it was a visual of this horizontal line. And you have the enemy on one side and then you have God on the other. And when I'm having a trigger and it's about him, I can put Travis anywhere on that line. And so if the trigger makes me feel more upset with him or angry, or it brings up resentment and things from our past, it means I'm headed more towards the enemy. But if I choose to let it go and not think about it anymore, now I'm actually putting Travis on the side closer to God because God wants this marriage. We are in this marriage. We're committed. We love each other. You are being loyal and faithful to me. That is the truth. And so when I ground myself in truth of what is really in reality, then I'm able to let that thought go. And I think that's also what Paul meant by capturing the thoughts. I captured that visual image and I kind of analyzed it like, oh, is this going to take me closer to God or closer to the enemy? And what is that going to do to our relationship? It's not going to do anything good.
Right.
So once I capture it, now I'm like letting it go because I'm no longer going to entertain that thought anymore. And I think it takes practice. I think it takes a lot of practice of doing it over and over and over. Because I remember feeling when somebody said, you can let thoughts go, I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? You don't just let thoughts go. My brain doesn't do that.
No.
But it's part of having awareness that you're even having a trigger. And the sooner that you realize that you're in a trigger, the sooner you can stop it. But if I let it go and I engage in those thoughts, it's going to take me to a dark place. And all of our trust is going to be broken in that thought process.
Yeah, there's several things that come up for me. One is I'm totally present to how thoughts make me miserable.
Right.
And I want to talk about that, but let's go backwards to this thing that you said. It lasted for 2 minutes, and then you said something really key is how you realized you were in it, is you had body sensations.
That's actually what caught my attention because the thoughts were going,
Yes.
They're like on autopilot. Okay. I saw this man, he was in a uniform. It reminded me of my past. And then boom, 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 the thoughts were there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until my heart said, ooh, this doesn't feel good. And I could feel that yuck, and I imagine you do too. It's yuck. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, when the trigger happens, when an emotion comes up, you're going to have a reaction. But right before you have that reaction, when the emotion comes up, there's physiological things that happen inside the body. There's things that you're talking about, these sensations. And like for me, I get tunnel vision and sweaty and my heart rate increases and I get sweaty armpits. And I don't know what yours is, but you just indicated that your heart rate went up really fast and you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's something I need to pay attention. Mm-hmm. The key is being aware of that. And you were able to be aware of that and be able to say, oh, well, I need to look at this more. And then you're able to see that she has this incessant thought process. You know, we all have 40 to 65,000 thoughts a day.
That's right. Let that sink in. That's a lot of thoughts.
You were just indicating within a short period of time, you had already judged and assessed this other man with multiple different negative thoughts that weren't true.
Right.
And they were rapid. That's how rapid that they're going off. You know, what's interesting though is if in the middle of those thoughts you had another thought about, you know, I need to get my daughter a dress for Easter coming up, or I need to cut the grass when I get home, you probably wouldn't hold on to those thoughts.
No.
They just
fleet on by.
They just go right on by. I mean, man, I wish I could remember some of the things I need to do in the house with some of my thoughts, you know, but they just go on by. But I hold on to those things that really seem like they need to have significance. You know, hold on to those thoughts.
Yeah. And then let's just look at what spiritual warfare and how that plays into this, because I believe that the enemy is all over triggers. We were just talking earlier how those thoughts that I had about the man were not the trigger. It was the introduction of where the enemy wanted me to go. Where the enemy wanted me was that visual image that he knew was going to really prick me. Like, oh, he was unfaithful, you know? And what I realized in talking with you is that is true. Like I think it gets muddy and triggers with what is true and what's not, because the trigger is bringing up the past of something that happened most of the time. That is true. It's the lie.
True meaning the past happened, and that is truth that it did happen. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm with you now.
So what happened to you is true, but it doesn't make it true in the now.
Yeah,
in the present moment. But the enemy wants me to feel in that space. And if he can get me in that space, he knows that he can get me to believe more lies about you. So
and what he can disconnect the relationship even more.
Exactly. So what that looks like in this situation is it wasn't the thoughts about the man that were the trigger or the lie. It was in the visual image. The lies that would have been attached to that are, you're going to do this again. I can't trust you. You're going to betray me with someone. You're not being loyal. I'm not lovable. You're not going to stay with me. You know, I mean,
that's like 8 or 9 lies that you cannot deal with lies. There's nothing you can do with that.
Which is why it cuts off.
Yes.
Why you go cold.
Yes.
Why I go cold.
Yes.
Because you're no longer safe for me in this relationship. You hurt me.
Yes.
And just really get that he wasn't there. He didn't do anything wrong. The man that I saw didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with him. It was in how the enemy was attacking me, whether or not I gave into that trigger or I chose to see what's true. And that's what I really want you to get today, is that the triggers are real and are going to make you feel like it's happening. But ground yourself in what is really true. The other key thing that has really helped Travis and I move forward together is there are times where I will share the trigger that I experienced with him. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times a trigger can make me feel very alone. It makes me feel like I'm walking this path by myself. And we have made the choice that we're walking this path together. And so by sharing that trigger, you're able to support me and just be there for me while I share what went on. And it gives me that support of knowing, like, we're still on the same team. You're fighting this battle with me. We're not against each other. We're together. We're moving forward. And that has just been really valuable for me.
In that, I'm able to hear that you have this trigger going on, and I can support you, I can come alongside you, but I can also affirm to you, this is not happening right now. I am committed to you. I'm committed to our relationship. I just reaffirm to you that I am in this relationship, and my past is in the past.
Yeah.
And you've said how that is helpful for you. I want to encourage you in doing that. If you're going to be sharing with your spouse the triggers that you're having, you want to make sure it's a safe place to be able to share. Maybe have your spouse watch this video with you, or go to our online academy and just look for the emotional safety video. That's a great one to help set up, how do I have a great conversation with my spouse about these triggers. I want to sum up what we kind of talked about today. The question was, listen, I'm having these triggers. How do you walk through them? And what do I do about these incessant thoughts? Yeah. And I hope you're able to hear Adelle's heart. I mean, you just went through it Monday.
I think
just
God
went through it a couple
lets me go through stuff as people ask it. It's so wild because I hadn't thought more about that trigger until this came in, and I was like, oh, well, that is so fresh for me. I'm actually able to identify how I walked through it. And so I just think that's so cool that God allowed that to happen.
It is. So what she was saying is the triggers happen and she's able to look at them and go, wait a minute, I'm in a vicious vortex here. There is triggers going on in me and there's these body sensations. Let me just take a deeper look at these lies that I'm choosing to believe over God's truths. The lies that I'm choosing to believe, the enemy's lies over God's truth. Let me take a deeper look at that. Let me see what's real and what's not.
They're lies about myself, about my spouse, or about the relationship. So that'll just give you a little insight on how to look for those lies.
Yeah. And then knowing you have 40 to 65,000 thoughts a day, that's a lot of thoughts going on. And that they will ramp up and increase the volume the more we give significance to them. And just knowing that I'm not my thoughts. I am the observer of them. Your thoughts are just an accumulation of all the things you've been throughout your entire life. So I want to really thank you for giving us this question. It gives us great conversation for you and I to be able to talk about this. So please send in more. We would love the opportunity to answer them.
Yeah, it may be questions about your marriage, but it also may be questions about us and how we've worked through things. Feel free to submit any questions that you have. And speaking of questions, this question that was submitted, we're going to send you a free gift of our Walking Through Betrayal course.
Wow.
And it has an entire section on how to walk through triggers in there that I think will be really beneficial for you. So check your email, and we hope you enjoy this free gift.
Thank you.
My walls are crumbling.
The lie that I believed was that I was unhappy because of my marriage, because I couldn't be who I really was, because I couldn't really do what I wanted to do.
Can't breathe.
Bigger, and we drifted further and further apart.
He made a vow with me.
I don't believe in God anymore, and I don't want to be married anymore.
Now his heart's in your hands, but
Papers were filed, and the divorce was final.
so where's this peace?
I couldn't even process what was happening. I couldn't make sense of the words. I didn't know how to respond.
I'm hanging on, but if I'm honest, I can't even
To have my best friend, this person that I had planned out my entire life with, to want to leave. I couldn't
I'm
understand.
begging you to take this. Oh, won't you come and take this? I'm begging you to
Grappling with the loss of that and the shame of it, of having to tell people, of people finding out.
letting go does not mean giving up.
You know, from that point on, it was learning how to let go.
You can take this till I let it go.
Let go of control, because it's really what so much of what I was grappling with, that's what it was about. So getting to that point of surrender, of letting go of control was, gosh, it changed everything.
So here's this peace you promised. His trust breaks through my fear, and there's still pain, but it's not wasted. I see you were always here.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye. I am sorry if that is you, and I'm sorry that you are going through that. And there's hope on the other side. You can get through this and come out bigger
Bigger
than
than ever before.